I come, but alright, okay. I arrive, bearing very fantastic news. You and I, we have a little something in common, okay? And it's not just the fact that we're both big hulking men, okay? I understand that we have big biceps that regularly get mistaken for mountain peaks. It's not just that. It's not even just the fact that we're both PSL gods who mog everybody that we walk past on the streets. No. What you and I have in common is that we're both perfectionists, which is that's kind of like being perfect, but not really. Actually kind of fucking sucks. I put this on to be warm, and now I'm too warm, so we are stripping. Don't get too excited about it, although if I were you, I would. There we go. The first video that I ever posted on this channel was titled How I Optimize Content Consumption and Learn So Much More. Still a very good video, by the way. I basically just give tips for those of you who essentially want to make the absolute most out of your content consumption. I re-scripted that video twice before I actually started to film it. Then I refilmed that video 3 times before I actually ended up like finishing editing it and posting it, which means I obviously started to edit 1 or 2 of the first takes as well, and like obviously scrapped them. The reason why I did this is because I have a very naturally perfectionist kind of mindset. The first video on my channel, or kind of the first like introduction to me on like my personal brand, had to be perfect, or at least like as good as I could get it, like as close to perfect as I could get. So in total, that one video ended up taking me about 2 to 3 weeks from the very first script to the final edit and like scheduling or posting it. For a 15-minute video, where by the way, I already knew like all of the points that I would say, like I knew all the tips that I was going to say and everything. So I didn't end up spending more than like 30 minutes writing in my notepad like a basic blueprint for how the video was going to go. 2 to 3 weeks, mainly because I had like a perfectionist mindset, but it's obviously also due to the fact that I was quite lazy, quite like procrastinatory. I didn't work on it every single day. Imagine I hadn't broke out of the perfectionist mindset that I was in, so still taking like between 2 and 3 weeks for each video. That would be 17.3 videos a year. Luckily, I caught on to this perfectionism like pretty early on, and I did everything I could to like silence it. I started to obviously put like a lot of effort into videos, but also accept if they didn't come out as like quite as perfect as I could have ensured that they did. I was posting very consistently for maybe a month or so, and eventually I actually got very confident on camera to the point where I didn't have to wait until like my brother was in school or until like he went out with his mates in order to record. I could just record like literally with him in the same room, which obviously like it was quite awkward at first, because sometimes he laughs at like this whole self-improvement thing that I got and how much I try to like optimize my life. He thinks it's like fucking autistic or something, which fair enough, it kind of is. But I eventually got much better at editing. I had learned the CapCut software that I was using, so that the editing like process took way I was about to say way longer. No, it's the complete opposite. It took way less time than it first did. I got my first subscriber that wasn't just like my nan on old accounts or something. I eventually got my first comment from this guy telling me to, asking me to make a tutorial on how to get hollow cheeks. With like, it's a bit gay, but that's a nice comment to get, right? I then got my first video that got like over 100 views. I think it was like 140 views or something. I then remember on that exact same video, I looked at my likes on the YouTube studio, and I saw that it got 2 dislikes. It got like 4 likes and 2 dislikes, which is like, that's not a fantastic ratio. I think it's like 66.7, I think it said, like percent like ratio. And I remember like I was like very gutted and everything. I was like, well, what did I do wrong? Like, why is this, why are they disliking the video? But nonetheless, I had to experience that at some point. I had to experience like my first kind of dose of hate at some point. And so I'm glad that I experienced it earlier rather than later. In the beginning, all I had to do was show up and put in consistent reps. The reps were never going to be perfect from the get-go, and so literally my only mission was to just get my feet off the ground, basically, to just get that repetition in. Even though right now, as of recording, actually as of scripting this video, I had 12 subscribers, I now have 17. So I don't know, maybe I'm gonna get a call from the big league soon. Maybe it's time to forget my day ones, but that's purely because I ended up getting distracted with like a lot of other areas of my life. So these reps got very inconsistent and stagnant for a long time. I think it was like a month. It was like a month where I was posting very consistently. I had like a very dedicated schedule, and then it got quite inconsistent. I think it was like a month and a half actually. Then it got quite inconsistent. I didn't post for a while, then I started posting again, but then that didn't last very long. But even right now that I've started posting again, like I've made sure that like the videos are like higher quality and everything as well. The audio works properly, everything's kind of consistent. Even now is a very good example that I've posted 3 videos over the past week and a half, I think, and I've gained 5 extra subscribers. So, you know, I focused solely on quantity over quality in the beginning, and that was when I started to actually see progress. I'm going to draw for you. I'm going to draw a little something for you. I will warn you, I wouldn't call myself an artist. This camera down here, it's going to be horrible. This is my webcam like built into my laptop, so it's going to fucking suck. But we won't be here long, okay? But I'm essentially just going to draw you a nice little square. How lovely is this? I mean, it's a bit of a wonky square, but I think we can say that this is a square. Oh, can I just... I don't know what they did. This square is basically like the playing ground for our goal. We start, let me get red. We'll be red, sure. We start here. This is like our starting point, basically. The goal is all the way up here. We're gonna do a... Oh, fuck's sake, this is so gay. We're gonna do like a checkered flag. Okay, kind of like when you reach like a finish line. Now here's what the journey is going to look like. I look incredibly retarded right now. The idea here is that it's supposed to be just like this complicated, crazy kind of journey with multiple different paths, multiple different choices. There's no way you can basically figure out what is the perfect decision to make. That's why perfectionism is such like a dooming mindset. But blah, 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 blah. Eventually you do like one of them leads to the goal. Your only vehicle for this journey, what do we do? Should we do black? Let's do black. Let's be inclusive. Your only vehicle for the journey is a needle. Stay with me now, okay? I promise you this isn't schizo logic. Each of these little dots are, like the orange dots, are steps. More specifically, they are pin-sized holes. A pin, just like this is also going to be your vehicle, by the way, like a needle, like a pin, something like that. Each step of the journey is just a singular pinhole. So if I were to just put that in there, that's basically what each of these steps is supposed to be. The reason in this analogy that each step is just like a tiny little pinhole and our only vehicle for navigating this like map and eventually getting to the goal is a needle is because each step is supposed to be very minuscule. It's not supposed to feel like you're making a whole lot of progress, but nonetheless, when we do eventually move this needle here across the board, what we see is we start to make very slow progress. Maybe eventually when we get here after like a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, depending on like how large the goal is, we might not really feel like we made a lot of progress, right? We have, when you kind of zoom out, we have, but you can't, it would be impossible to zoom out because you don't know how long the journey is going to be. It's impossible to tell just how far like we've got to go, but eventually with like enough repetition, we eventually hit our goal. I like to call each of these tiny little like dots, each of these tiny little steps, NPTs, which just stands for needle pushing tasks. And the logical conclusion here is that if you wake up every single day and you move this needle ever so slightly, it eventually adds up, right? The repetition adds up and you eventually like reach your goal. Like I said, it could take 1 week, it could take 1 year, right? It all depends on the size of the goal and more specifically and more importantly, how often you're moving that needle. So that's why I say like MPTs, needle pushing tasks, should be completed first thing in the morning, basically every single day, if you want to get to this lovely green flag here much quicker. What matters most is that you're pushing like this needle, you're forcing it forward every single day, because you don't know when you're going to get there, but pushing it forward guarantees that you'll get there at some point. Taking these steps, and even if you need to fill in every single one of these steps and go back, you took a wrong path up here, but then you have to go back, and then you go this way instead, and then you go down this way, and that way didn't work, so you go back up, and then you go back up this way, whatever. Enough repetition is going to get you here eventually. I hope that comes out well. When you have a perfectionist mindset, you're not actually perceiving the journey for what it is. Instead, you're believing that all of the shortcuts, like on this board, if you just thought deep enough, if you just thought enough about it, you would be able to locate them and basically get there as fast as possible. And this is logical, right? Because yeah, there are some moves on this board that are a lot better than others. But when you're starting out and you're still nuanced, when you're at the point where no amount of sitting down and thinking and using your own knowledge in a specific area, knowledge of which you basically have none of because you're just starting, thinking really deeply about the next move is not going to be very effective. Your best next move, like at the beginning, is to simply just move. Your best next move is any move. In the beginning stages of something, I want you to make it exist first, and then you can go back and maybe make it good later. Or more specifically, you can then start to use like your logical thinking and think deeper into the next moves to eventually kind of launch you even further. Because like I said, logic and overthinking will take you further, but not in the beginning. In the beginning, just focus on moving, gaining experience, and gaining momentum. You can then think and perfect and optimize later on, and then that will eventually take you further than those who aren't as intelligent as you. At the very beginning, you could make the exact same progress as somebody who is so much dumber than you, because the only thing that matters in the beginning is just making the moves. But then it gets to a specific point where you can actually use your brain. You can actually use like your overthinking or your logical thinking or thinking deep into things, and that will propel you further than those who don't think as much. If you had two guys who wanted to start lifting and putting on some muscle in the gym, one of them decided to spend weeks and weeks like consuming YouTube videos about the best and most optimal splits, and then thinking about which one is best and which gym near his house is like the best one to go to, all before actually like setting foot in the gym. Then the other guy decided to just, watch a few basic like YouTube videos, maybe make like a really shit kind of split, then sign up for the first commercial gym that he sees when he literally just types gym into Google, and is in the gym within the next few days to a week. Who do you think is going to make more progress? The second guy, obviously, because in the beginning, the only thing that matters is actually just taking the action, gaining the practical experience, and gaining momentum. Even when his newbie gains start to wear off, he's still been spending that time further researching even better splits, better like ways to improve your sleep, better diet options, like how much creatine to take or whatever, all while he was working out. Like, he was taking the action and he was researching, ready for when he has to eventually turn things up a notch. He wasn't putting all of his focus into just researching and having this like perfectionist mindset where like you just have to know everything before you actually try. He already has the momentum. He already feels more comfortable in the gym. Maybe he goes at the same time every single day, and now there's a few like familiar faces that he sees. Maybe there are a few guys who he's spoken to. Maybe there are a few girls who he's spoken to. He's had a bit of experience, and now he's past like the very beginner stage, like level 0 of just taking action. Now he would benefit more from thinking deeper into his plan. Whereas the first guy had virtually no advantage of thinking really deep and autistically into it at the very beginning stage. You can use the same analogy when it comes to getting confident in talking to women. The pickup artist almost certainly has less success with women than the masculine man who doesn't put women on a pedestal and doesn't like fucking autistically research like pickup lines and how to, you know, how to properly go up and talk to them, and like how weird do I look and what do I say, and you know, all of like the really autistic like habits and traits. He just focuses on his work, his fitness, his family, and then when he does eventually go up and talk to a girl who like he likes the look of, like he sees a girl and he goes up and approaches her, he's just as confident as if he was going up to talk to one of his boys, because he's just not thinking about it. It's not, he's not like proper like breaking sweats over it and everything. It's not a huge deal for him. It's almost like he's got that drunk confidence that, you know, that you get when like you're drunk. It's easier to socialize and stuff without actually being drunk. He's just not thinking about it. You can use the same analogy for business. The guy who overthinks spends too much time on I don't know, the name of his brand, or which logo should he use, and which like colors and everything, what kind of like style should he go for, or what's the perfect message to, you know, outreach with. He loses every single fucking time to the guy who just acts like the guy who obviously puts a tiny bit of thought in at the beginning, but he just makes it exist first. He just tries things first, and maybe he perfects it later after he's actually got some like on-hand experience. He just cold calls, or he, you know, cold DMs on Instagram, whatever like the equivalent would be for your specific business model. He pitches, he fails, he loses potential leads, potential clients, whatever it is. Either way, he's now got that first-hand experience, which is so much more valuable than any YouTube video can give you, by the way. Any article that you read, anything that you generate with fucking ChatGPT, even any advice that somebody could give you in real life at the beginning stage. And then eventually he just learns the game and he wins it. The lesson of this video is that you will never achieve perfect steps towards your goal, even if you're really experienced in it. And you certainly aren't going to achieve perfect steps in the very beginning when you have no experience and you have no momentum. The man who thinks too critically about his moves in the beginning is always going to be outplayed by the man who just acts and maybe thinks about perfecting his actions later on. If you ever struggle with this kind of like perfectionist trap and you like come to the realization of it, I want you just to remember the title of this video, which is simply just make it exist first, then you can make it good later. Write it down if you need to. I've been Ray, and if you're thinking currently, maybe you're thinking too deeply about whether or not you should like the video and, you know, subscribe to me and everything, don't think, just do. See what I did there? It's a scam. This was my idea all along. Convince you to think less, so then you will support my channel, and I will gain from your lack of independent thinking, because I convinced you not to independently think. Did it work? Drop a cheeky comment to let me know. Think less, act more.